Today we're looking at particles. Not that it's complicated, but there are a lot of steps involved. So I'm going to try and keep those steps as simple as possible. First of all, you need a logo to work with, and I've got one here. I'll drag it down into the timeline, shorten it a bit. So you need then to go to your toolbox and find Fusion Composition, and you put your Fusion Composition up against it there, and we need that to be 3 seconds long for this demonstration. Shift forward arrow 3 times and you've got 3 seconds. You can now shorten it to there. If we now put the playhead in the Fusion Composition and go to Fusion. Before we get started in Fusion, you need to go to Playback, Render Cache, and select Smart. Click it and then check that that has been accepted. That's very important. You now have a media out, which we'll put over here, and your logo showing up here in the media pool. If your media pool isn't open, click it. So we'll drag that down into the work area. Now, in order to size and position this, you need a transform node, which is available here. So as long as this is highlighted, click transform node. The next node we need, you find by pressing Shift spacebar. Now mine opens up on another monitor, so I'll have to drag it in for you. And there we type in P image. So P im, and it's a P image emitter. So you click on that and then add. We then need to add a turbulence node. So it's Shift spacebar, TUR, turbulence, P turbulence, add. This is a very straightforward line that we're creating here. So with P turbulence highlighted, we go Shift spacebar, and this time we want a P render, P-R-E-N, click on it and add. These are all P's, which is for particle. So it's a particle image emitter, a particle turbulence, and particle render. You connect that up to the media. That's all we have as a node tree, simple straight line. Now if you drag the transform node into your left hand display monitor, it will show you that you've got your right logo. And if we go just back a bit, this is your timeline, of course, and because you've got 3 seconds, it's 75 frames long, because I'm working 25 frames a second. 25 frames a second times 3, 75. So if you go to this and you've got transform pulled into there, transform highlighted, and go over to your inspector, and here you've got size. So we'll just bring it down a bit. I'm not being precise at this moment. There's a lot of processing going on here, so things will slow down a bit. But be prepared for that. We're going to do a very simple one to start with the P image emitter highlighted. You click on Style, Fade Control, and bring that back out. you're adjusting out, and at round about the halfway mark. That'll do, nothing precise. Now we also need to set in the controls, so you can click controls, you need to set lifespan. Now the lifespan is the number of frames, and we've got 75 frames here, so if you change that to 75, the fade is so that at the end of your animation it will fade rather than just go bump to the end. If we now go to the edit page, you'll see that your fusion composition has a red line above it, and it will start to creep and become blue. I will leave it and go and get a cup of tea. Now we're back and the red line has turned blue. If we now play that, we will have a simple particle render. Now it's not fully gone to particles, that's because we didn't put any special adjustments in. But this is to get you started, so it's very simple. I'm going to now change the size of the logo here to the size of the logo in Fusion. Overlap it a little, go to transform, opacity, perhaps bring it round to about 50 so that you can see the two, and then in this case it's a simple zoom. Bring your opacity back to normal, bring this to the front, and then when you play it, this is a nice effect in itself, but it hasn't gone to particles because we didn't change any of the settings. If we go back into the Fusion composition, now we're back in Fusion, and we're going to change some of the parameters. So we start left to right. We've already done your transform to the size, unless you decide that you want to change that. You go to P image emitter and click on style and go change point to blob, and then size controls, size, take it fully to the right, 0.5. You've still got your fade in position because we did that earlier. Controls, and we want random seed to be about 200. Your lifespan is still 75 because we set that before, if you remember. And then you click velocity, and velocity, you will alter this here to be about, you can slide this if you want. I want it to be about 11 or 12. Okay, and the same with velocity variance. So it's 0.11 or 12. I'll type that in because I'm not. Yeah, 0.12. Now the other thing that you want to change is angle Z. And you want that to be -90. If you don't do it, everything slides off to the side. If you now go to turbulence and random seed again, 200, and then the X the Y and the Z need to be 0.5, and density wants to be in the region of 20. If we now go back to our timeline and let it render out. Right, we're back. So if we now play that, we get full particles. The magic of this isn't over, because if we go back into Fusion, we can go to File, Export, Fusion Composition. Now I've already done this, but you save it, you find somewhere you want to save it. I've got it on a drive called Storage, and I've created a folder for it. So I've saved the simple one and the particle one, and I've called it 3 seconds because that means that if I want to use it again, I know how long to make my Fusion composition. But the clever thing is that once you've saved it there, which I won't do now, I've already saved it. Let's assume that you've created your particle animation in Fusion and you want to use it again. You've saved it. We need a Fusion composition on the timeline. That needs to be, for this case, 3 seconds long. We'll bring the new logo down and we'll go into Fusion. We now go to File, Import, Fusion Composition. Choose the one that you've created earlier and it will load itself into the work area. If we click in this work area and then drag this one as your media in, which is this logo, because it drags in the logo of your creation, the one that you created it with. If we disconnect that and then delete it, drag in the new logo and attach it, and in that time everything has become active. We'll resize this logo because that's one thing, that the logo will not be the right size, so you need to drag it into your work area. Now it's not allowing me to do it it's doing it a little bit slowly, so that's not a problem. There's a lot of processing going on at the moment. So if we go to Transform, Highlighted, and Work on Size, if we bring that down in size, if we let it process, we can go into Edit, and the line is red, so it's not rendered it yet. Leave it to render. Go and get yourself a cup of tea or cocoa. Right, we're back and the red line has turned blue. So if we nudge the logo over the top of the Fusion composition, we'll go to opacity again, around about the 50%, and bring the size down. I think it's about right there. One way of seeing whether it's right or not is by moving your opacity left and right, and if it doesn't change while you're doing that, and that's fine. One thing to watch out for is that if your logo isn't of a good enough quality, it won't look good when it's animated. If you notice here, as we go from the logo itself that's on the timeline to the logo in the Fusion composition, the quality of it in the first frame is more or less the same as it was in the main logo. If you have a logo that's not very good quality, it doesn't do that, and I'll load one up and get back to you in a minute. So here's an example for you. I've loaded another logo. I've been through all the procedure. I've gone into Fusion. It's all loaded up. First indication that it's not a good enough quality is it's not showing up very well in the output monitor. It's rendered. There's nothing wrong with it. I've left it plenty of time to do that, but when you play it, you'll see the difference in quality when it jumps into. Now, I've not got the size the same. It needs blowing up in this case, but there you have it. It's not treating it well. When this first happened to me, I didn't know what was happening. It turned out that this is a very small file. It's not of a good enough quality. So just be aware of that when you get your logo that you want to use. It needs to be of a reasonable quality and size. So that's it, folks. I hope that's helpful, and perhaps I'll see you again sometime. Bye.